happy to invite you all and the esteemed panel members for discussion on this interesting topic that has been given to us, that is the reimagining security and customer experience for the BSI. As you know, as we are completing the second year of this grim COVID pandemic situation and still facing the COVID restrictions on and off lockdowns and various other protocols, we have adopted a paradigm shift in our work culture. As the previous speaker was mentioning, we have adapted and also adapted ourselves to the new working environment of remote working, work from home, hybrid work model, workplace, etc. The BFI sector is especially vulnerable for the risk it carries for carrying out online financial transaction which involves money, and also due to the value of the data that it hosts. Hackers sell the stolen financial data and also the banking credential to the highest bidder in underworld, and also use it to siphon off millions of rupees and dollars. The potential attack surface is now what is happening is that it is started growing in size, owing to it the larger digital footprint that we are having now. Almost now everything is carried out remotely and on online. Hence, we need to revisit and reassess our cybersecurity and also the customer experience landscape. In this context, I would like to ask some key challenges and the questions that the BFA sector at large is facing. To start with, I would like to invite upon Mr. Deodutta. He is from the banking background. Mr. Deodutta Kurane.
Okay, so let me give you a perspective on this. Though I left the bank a couple of months back, but I was pretty much there when the COVID struck and the lockdown, came. And initially, of course, it was work from nowhere because people didn't know what to do, and then slowly orders started coming in, that bit of chaos, and then the work from home and all those things started. So, I'm aware that most of the other participants are the experts in the security, IT security, and all that, whereas I'm from the human resources side. So I would just like to put this perspective over here. What are the challenges? Because, one of the things we realized in this whole work from home and which is continuing today is that the tail end of this entire security chain is the last mile, is the employee, the end of the whole chain. And we could have very, very robust systems. That means the pipeline could be very, very secure, but ultimately it has to have a exit or opening somewhere, and that opening is in the form of the last mile employee. So, one of the points which I want to put before the participants is that perhaps there is one less thought of aspect of data security, and I'll come to customer experience a little bit later, is the security which is provided or which is expected to be provided by each individual employee. Because, see, at the end of the day, many of these security solutions are only secure to the extent, let's say, that a third party cannot, get into the data in between. They cannot intercept it or break the encryption and so on and so forth. Other aspect, of course, which is not covered right now is what happens if the customer shares his credentials and all those frauds. That's a different matter. But the real threat of customer data getting leaked out, ultimately, the employee can write down the card number, the employee can write down something. You can take a photo of the screenshot may be fully disabled, but photos can be taken. So the point I'm trying to make is many of these threats, some people will say that they existed even when the office environment was there. But I think there's a very marked difference, and this is the difference we need to take into account, is that when a large number of employees, let's say from an operations group or even outsourced employees doing back-end data entry work, etc., uh, they were working in an office environment, there is a implied control. There are some other controls which can be there, in terms of you don't take your mobile phone into the workplace, keep your mobile phone away, etc. Uh, there could be, in very stringent areas, you could actually do a search and
Particularly the treasury and other areas. Yes.
sorry.
Particularly the treasury and other areas
Yeah,
which are
so we
very
could
well.
have all those kind of controls in a workplace. Now, what happens is when the employee is working from his home, these natural constraints, or rather the organizational constraints, have been completely removed. So the employee is working in a very autonomous fashion. My limited point over here is that I think one aspect of security, data security, and customer security, etc., is a huge kind of a cultural and training exercise which needs to be done, because the employee has to be made aware that look, you are the endpoint custodian of all the security installation which the company is doing. You could invest crores and crores into fantastic solutions, but they can go completely wrong at the end of the day. I reminded of a very very short story, if Sir Raghava, if you permit me. My father was in the army, and there's one story which has been told many times. It said that in the front area, a general was visiting, and the ordinary foot soldier who was a sentry, he stopped the general at night from coming into the camp and asked him the password, and that is the practice in the army. So the general, for some reason, did not give the password, or didn't want to give the password. He didn't remember it, or he thought that he's a general, so he doesn't require the password. So the soldier said, "No, sorry, sir, you cannot. You don't give the password. You don't enter the camp." The ending of this story is told in various different ways by different people. Some say the general rewarded him. Some say the general fired him. But the reason for telling this story over here is I think each employee is like that sentry now, and whatever the process and the system which the camp may have set up for security, it is only as good or as bad as that last mile sentry. So my point, which I'm trying to put before the panel and before the participants, is that we should concentrate on a fairly large cultural change exercise. Employees have to be trusted. We have to build that trust quotient, because I've noticed one thing in human nature, that if you show distrust in people and try to do excessive policing, people go the other opposite side and prove it to you that that policing was required. Whereas if you trust people, I'm not saying that you trust blindly, but if you trust people, you find that outcomes are sometimes a bit more positive. So this is my take at this point of time, and we have had success in this in the bank also, because in the beginning of the COVID, when people started working from home, it was the central bank, Reserve Bank, didn't allow banking services to get suspended. So they said that branches have to be open. Your transactions, your cash management, your digital banking, so many channels have to be open, and obviously all these employees could not come to the office, so they had to be given access to applications, even to some of the core banking system, this thing. So basically my point here is that I think we should focus on the last mile security, which is in the form of the employee.
Thank you, Mr. Kurane. You've brought in your rich experience of HR. I think you have brought that element of the HR background there to give us the real insights into how the human aspect, HR aspects work over here. That's true. Uh, there always been a challenge ever since this lockdown happened to balance between the convenience of working from home and at the same time ensuring that the security and business continuity happens without major issues for the banks. Having said that, I would like to now invite Mr. Anand Yadav of Indian Bank. I think he's a senior person of cyber security. So my question to you would be like hybrid work is now a reality, like we all accept it. And so banks need to protect all customers and employees, not only customers but also employees also now, because they are working from
Yeah,
home, a remote location, and all that. So, and also they are using various applications, as the speaker before pointed out. There are certain sensitive applications are also we are made to give them access from home. So in that light, how do you look
yeah,
at the cloud-delivered security stack for strengthening security posture? Is cloud all
yeah,
a solution? Whether banks can adopt cloud, because banks always being a bit wary about adapting internet and cloud securities. How do you foresee these things spanning out in another, say, 3 or 5 years? So can you please
yeah,
throw some light on that?
yeah. So first of all, I would like to say thanks to all of you to inviting me in such a loaded forum. and you choose the right topic for the right in the right time. So I would like to just first introduce that in a government sector, generally I belongs to the Indian bank. So we are not exactly on that cloud, in a public cloud, but we are using the our own data center, hosted on premise private cloud. So till this day we are having very less footprint on public cloud, like we are using Office 365, which
Yeah.
sir already made the comment like that we are using, but yes, and but we are using so many solutions like spear phishings, and in future we are trying to buy some more solution like deception technology, and some other data security and DLP related solution. But currently we are having very less footprint. But at the time we are actually at the time of pandemic, our bank staff is using up PIM, and secured VPN. Through that they are accessing and providing the support to the bank, and the customers. I'm basically more towards the cybersecurity part. So exactly that particular thing which we are doing, we are using the PIM solution and VPN solution for accessing the secure devices, and on premise and off premise. And in the government bank we are not having that type of work from home options, as you all aware. So I got 2 time COVID positive. So we are continuously going to that data center and DR site. So uh, so uh, so I would like to close it this like that only. So we are continuously on premise, and we are supporting from there only,
Okay,
sir.
thank you, Ashish. As you rightly mentioned, the Office 365 and email has been the first candidates for banks to be go on cloud. In fact, many banks went just before the lockdown happened. Even my bank, earlier I worked, we moved sometime in 2019 the end, and we were lucky to be on online for email and other things. So it worked so smoothly during our lockdown time. We were able to manage most of the work sitting at home. As you know, initially the 3 months it was complete lockdown, and there were a lot of cases that happened in our office. And it was we were saved by Office 365 and also the other tools that we posted on the website. Thanks to our ex-CMD who was pushing very hard to put these things on online so that we can access from home. Yeah, you are right. Banks are a bit hesitant, and they are not a very easily, they don't adapt cloud securities for obvious reasons, security and other things. Now, coming to the next question, I would like to invite upon Mr. Shivendra, Mr. Shivendra Srivastava. I think he is online from Bandhan Bank. Along with offering a great, are you on? Are you switching on your camera, Mr. Shivendra?
Yes, yes, I am there.
Thank you. Thank you. Along with offering a great customer experience and ensuring the security has become a key concern for BFSI industry, as a leader, what kind of cloud security framework within your organization do you follow for securing internet access? That is, internet access is now taken as granted. It is given. Without internet, now we are not able to work, even not only at home, even from at office. So, what is your views on that?
So basically, in last foundation where I work, we have provided means in the bank has actually taken a call to provide some most of the customer a Chromebook kind of laptop wherein, and bank has also started to give them convince for this work from home and Wi-Fi and everything. We have also kind of over the cloud, over the Azure cloud, we have taken kind of a private cloud over that over the Azure cloud. We have tried to just put it on the limits on the cloud and use only the bank IPs, and other things are will be in the separate VLANs, and according to that the user can access their PCs and everything. It is connected to a kind of a direct access, which it goes to the cloud, but it goes through the bank network. So it is like that you are controlling the user. They can access the whatever they want, but everything is going to the bank network. So whatever the controls mm, we have in our organization, which we have built for the cloud security, it's already implied there. So based on the basis of that, we are trying to achieve that, and we were quite successful in doing that. We have, instead of means more putting on the infrastructure side, also we have taken a kind of initiative to put our application security kind of thing, wherein we have pushed all the details are masked and only role based access will be there. And if a user wants to see something which is not he's supposed to do, there will be alerts are getting generated, and it directly it the security team catches that, and he can also have a call with them and or identify them, send them mail, and we can track that also. That is how we have done that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ashwini Rao. You being from the industry Citrix, that is one of the pioneers thing. In fact, in SIDBI, we were one of the earliest adopters some 2 decades back. Way back in 2001, we migrated to Citrix, which was the only few solutions that were available for remote working and deploying of apps, even the legacy applications, even COBOL applications and other things which we had. And we were in a different platform, and most of applications were in-house developed softwares. And you cannot easily migrate those applications to, say, Java or other things. So we adapted Citrix in those days. We were one of the earliest adapters. So you being from that, which has got a legacy of providing this kind of solutions, what is your take on the cloud security framework? How do you think banks evolving and adapting these solutions, and what has been your personal experience? Can you share your thoughts and experiences, particularly how you are able to, if you can share some live case study of how did you solve the solution, solve the some challenges faced by the banks? Can you please throw some
Yeah,
light?
good afternoon, Mr. Raghava and fellow panelists and the audience. I think it's a very interesting topic that we're discussing today, reimagining security while keeping in mind the customer experience. While, I'll try to answer the question asked by Mr. Raghava. I would just like to give you an analogy on the entire security landscape, right? I mean, we live in cities in India where there is a security available on the road. There are barricades put and the police is present on the ground. I don't know how many people feel safe in that. I think most of the people probably get scared that this kind of a security checks are being put. But if you look at a city like Singapore, where there's enough and more security, but you hardly see a policeman. As a normal citizen, you probably feel more comfortable, going around, roaming around, and you know that you are not the one who's going to get caught very clearly. So these are both securities, right? I mean, the flavor is different. Similarly, in organization, and I will pick up, from where Mr. Kurane left, that at the end of it, it's the employee who's very vulnerable. He's used to working in a very secured environment inside the office premises where they go and they have their designated desktops or
Yes.
the company provided laptops, and they're working there. They are not concerned about the data security or I'm talking about 99% of the general employees. One or two could be rogue who will try to steal the data, but those concerns are not there. But ever since they are operating from home, the issue is that how do you start working and make sure that everything is protected. And very interestingly, the example that you gave of SIDBI, and we are actually in the BFSI space, not only in India but globally. Citrix is the de facto choice because we are the only company which secures your the customer application and data while making sure that the
Yes.
customer experience or the user experience is very very they should not feel like that they are working remotely. One of the use cases which came to our limelight was the use case of a contact center, right? The contact center employees don't only need tools like Zoom or Teams or calling facilities, but they also need the context because as a customer, if I'm calling a contact center, agent who's sitting at home and working, if he or she doesn't have the entire context of the customer, the whole experience will go for a toss. So how do you provide those protected applications and the data which is inside the four walls of the organization to outside to someone who's sitting in remote areas, and then not only at home, they could be anywhere. So Citrix philosophy always says that you can use any device from anywhere and use any applications. Like Mr. Raghava said that they are legacy applications. In the pandemic, we cannot tell the customers that you have to move everything to cloud, or change all the applications from legacy to monolith to microservices. That's not possible, right? How do you make sure, and Citrix has been doing that for 30 years, that make sure that there is no disruption in services, and every kind of application, whether hosted in your data center or web applications, or applications which are hosted on public cloud, are given access to the employees. And in between, whatever happens, the entire security is taken care by Citrix, so that tomorrow the employee, even if they want, some, I think Mr. Kurane only made a mention of somebody clicking the photo. But what if everything that I open has a very clear watermark on every page, which shows my name or my login ID, which is there as a watermark. So even if I click, that data, if it gets stolen, it's going to have my print all over. So, and Tejo spoke about the anti-key logging. Whatever I'm typing here, only the garbage is traveling, and the application is taking care of it. So these are some of the things which we are doing, and obviously going forward, we are going to enhance as much as possible. And last but not the least, I'll take another 10 seconds. Another thing which comes in the user experience is whether I'm using a simple application like Word, Excel, or PowerPoint, or I'm using something to do with video and audio. My experience should, the Citrix layer takes care of the experience using a technology called HDX, and allocates the bandwidth accordingly. So these are some of the things which you have done, and we are serving almost every bank in the country as we speak.
Yeah, being one of the users of Citrix, one of the key advantages of using that tool is that the any application can remain in its native environment. All that it needs to be done is to just publish it or go and publish it on Citrix, whether it is COBOL environment, Java environment, Fortran, or any other environment, or .NET or anything. So that's the key advantage of having Citrix. Yes, you are right. We have been one of the users of earliest adopters also. So just moving on from there. So I would like to invite upon Mr. Bhushan. So what are the two, establishing a secure infrastructure for BFI transaction is one of the key requirement now. Finding ways to increase the flexibility without compromising on security. So that is the requirement considering the current situation. So, what are the two key immediate priorities for you when it comes to beefing up the customer experience and security? Maybe you can share your thoughts on that. I think you come from uh, insurance sector, right?
No, I'm from mutual fund sector.
Mutual
So
sector. Yeah,
predominantly mutual fund has
we
been
can get different point of view apart from banking.
yeah. So basically, mutual fund has traditionally been a paper-based transaction systems. If you look at last 3-4 years, mutual fund has now become digitization. So we also, as SBI Mutual Fund, planned our digital journey for around 6 years back when we launched a new website and mobile app. Right. So now, from our perspective, the major critical customer experience is the way our distributors, our end users connect to us, and they are able to transact with us, right? So that way, providing scale of size, then having the best in piece kind of encoding environment standards. So that was one of the key requirements that we had. So we had to change the way we code, right? So doing DevOps and doing DevSecOps more than DevOps board, DevSecOps was a priority for us. Secondly, looking at the current threats and being, with State Bank Group, it comes with its own, risks, right? Because as a brand, State Bank is one of the biggest bank and one of the biggest groups in the country today, right? So securing the perimeter was one of the key challenges. Secondly, providing all our people accesses to applications seamlessly, because we have regulatory requirements. Our NAVs have to be published within cut-off times, etc. So over there, like Citrix has some solutions. We adopted some equivalent solutions from other service providers, and we were able to achieve those targets. Now looking forward, we are looking at that we looking at scaling, looking at security. We are now planning for a cloud journey, right? So we had a RFP that was floated, and we are looking at a lock, stock, barrel movement completely to cloud based on our evaluations, internal assessments, and we are in the finalization stage as of now to move to the cloud. So over there, we have engaged a consultant. We have created a new set of frameworks in terms of operations, in terms of security guidelines, in terms of security configurations into cloud. What all things have to be checked on day one when the application goes live or would become live. The kind of changes that we anticipate in the application layer, in terms of coding, in terms of key management, session management, your access to databases from applications, right? How do we secure them? How do we ensure that things are the way they are secure in, say, on premise, okay, to a certain extent, which are in our control? How do we do it into cloud? So that is what we have done. In the pandemic, we had a robust framework earlier, where we had a continuous BCP drills that were done from home, from the BCP location, from DR sites, right? In fact, we had people to work on mobiles network, right, as a part of the BCP drills. So those things helped us during the onset, right? So March end, when we had the lockdown announced, right, we were able to quickly move into the pandemic era, right, where people were able to work, we were able to deliver every regulatory requirements on time. But of course, it had its own issues in terms of sales, right, because most of the branches were closed. In fact, our business partners were also closed, except for the banking channel. Nobody was open, right? So over there, we had to invest heavily into digitization, invest heavily into customer experience from a transaction perspective.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bhushan. Now, I mean, this is a very vast subject also. Now, I would like to invite one Mr. Savio to share his views and thoughts. What have been your experience, and whether how AI and ML is going to be used in cybersecurity, or how KYC security technologies are being adopted, or also about how security implementations is happening in the BFI sector. If you can share your thoughts on that as a concluding remarks. I think you are on mute, Mr. Savio. Can you switch on your mic?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks for reminding me that. Yes, if you look at how the pandemic has helped digitalization take leaps and bounds, I think it has helped us in many ways. One is that if you look at it today, as Bhushan sir has rightly said, that online transactions happened more frequently now. Gone were the days when it used to happen. Everybody would visit a branch and things like that. So now adoption of cloud, adoption
Yeah.
of security.
All my mutual fund investments have happened online only, including my
Yeah,
KYC.
but then still it was a paperwork which was done, and then it taken to the back office, and then as one. But today it's all online. So thanks to the digitalizing pace which we have picked up over the period of during this pandemic also. Most of the transactions, be it banking transactions, also are being done today on the internet only, and it's done still yet online, and more transactions are being done online. So companies like Paytms and the likes are growing. Keeping in mind all these aspects, if you look at it, security plays a very important role, and what we have seen is that each and every company, be it BFSI, non-BFSI, everybody is looking at security in a very big way. And if you look at it, the disruption which has happened is that no, we have always looked at security in a very structured way. That is your data center, your HOs, your ROs, your ZOs, and the branches. But now it's gone beyond that, and it's gone to the edge. And when we say the edge, like as Ashwini Rao has said, that Citrix has the solutions to help you secure, first of all, the edge, be it on the internet, and be it your private means data center applications also. So that's one way where Citrix plays a role. The second is accessing it from anywhere, any device, and still making it secure. As Mr. Kurana also said that I like that story of Mr. Kurana, and he said that okay, the general was not allowed, so it's a zero trust network, and that's a zero trust which is being brought into picture. And today, if you look at Citrix, Citrix by itself, and many customers themselves are looking at zero trust. They're not trusting anybody because it can so happen that I may be compromised, and through my endpoint, I can reach to their bank's network. So these are some of the aspects which I feel are being taken care of by the banks and rightly taken care of. Yeah, but security is always is kind of never 100%. They still let leaps and bounds to grow. So that's about it.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen.
So, Raghava, if I may just share one thought.
Yeah,
We
please go ahead.
spoke a lot on security, but if you talk about the customer experience, I would like to just add that, delinking this from COVID and pandemic, one of the things is that, there is a whole lot of online, and I think the benchmarking in the minds of normal customer is, let's say that benchmark something with an Amazon kind of ease of doing work. But, some of the facilities in Amazon cannot be given in a BFSI application because of, variety of reasons, regulatory reasons, etc. So this is one part where I think the expectation setting and benchmarking also is very important, because some bank may say that my application is great, but if you look at it, ultimately it has to be as good as Swiggy or ease of ordering like Zomato. Because when I was in the bank, we used to say the HR application should be benchmarked like that. This is one part. The other last point I want to mention is, this whole customer experience, if you'll notice, all of us have got a call from some telemarketer from some company. And that person has the most irritating voice, the most irritating manner of speaking, and they completely put you off the product. Even if you intended to buy that product, you will never buy it.
And they repeat same thing like a parrot of what they have been
Absolutely.
taught, and they never ask reply to the queries that we raise. That is the problem.
Correct. So my point here is that while we are investing a lot in in the technology for the customer interface, the UI, the UX, and all that, but I think somewhere the investment is falling short on the human resource. And I'm a human resource guy, so I will stress that point, that the quality of resource, the training, the approach, etc. And these are not seamless. And last 30 seconds is, I'll give the example, in your own house. If you see, there is a material of how we build a house is various, right? Cement, concrete, next to that is wood, next to that is a piece of marble or something. These two have to be all fitted together in a very beautiful manner. So technology, human interface, contact center, telecaller, these are different types of material, not like building material, but these are all interface material. And I think inadequate attention is paid to this, and therefore the big gaps come in this. I just
And
I agree with you, and just like to add, there are three key components. The first component is the organization, who's basically the owner of the application and the data. The second component on the other end is the user who's accessing that data, and in between there's a layer which is the custodian of the data, which is the people who are setting the security and making sure everything goes as per the organization policies. And the BFSI industry is slightly different from the manufacturing or rest of the industries, because it comes under a lot of regulatory compliances and governance as well. Their data is not the same data as of a manufacturing organization. The entire IP is completely different, right? Now, basically, today, if we look at the organizations, they say that we need a very seamless experience in all three layers. We want our users, our users should not get hackled by putting passwords throughout the day, or getting into VPN and this and that. They should be able to have a single sign on for all their applications. This is one of the ask, very clear from most of the customer. The second very critical component is that the administrators don't want a situation or deploy solutions which will take them hours and hours and sleepless nights to manage. So they want ease of management. And the organizations say that whatever you do, make sure my data and my application is completely protected. And obviously, whoever is authorized to see whatever, just like in an office, if it is a legal department, they'll just have access to their own applications. The marketing will have access to their own applications. They can't see what the legal is doing. So similarly, even when you are working from home, the experience has to be similar. So I think Citrix as an organization is taking care of all these aspects. This is what I wanted to conclude with.
Yeah,
True.
yeah, I can
And
second
there,
that also, and that really leads to a better customer experience also. So when you talk about customer experience, it is timely delivering the data to that user in such a way that he can resolve the query at that moment in time, and not come back to him or say to the customer that, sir, I'll come back to you tomorrow or the after tomorrow. And that's I think being delivered by Citrix. And yeah, like, so that's from my side.
yeah,
I,
that's
I, I
true.
was thinking Ashwini for that.
The customer experience is very important aspect, which is often overlooked, as a couple of speakers have mentioned. In fact, I can share one of my recent experience. I was very pleasantly surprised that one of my friends suggested that I invest in one of the Tamil Nadu Power Finance Corporation FDs. It's very easy. This thing, it's giving a very good interest rate and all that. I thought, why to take the risk anyway? One day I was sitting like this and I had some spare cash. I thought, why don't I try? I just tried, and the entire process of registering, providing the KYC, everything was so smoothly handled and step by step. And and just to remember, there was no human interface at all. It was completely online. But I had a very pleasant experience of the entire process went through within 25 minutes flat, and the FD was ready. And I started getting my this thing. Even though I made a beginning there, I felt I thought Tamil Nadu is a state government. It will not be proper. I mean, first of all, there is a risk of investing in such a company, and then there is a we don't know whether proper hand holding will be there and all that. But the entire experience left me stunned, because even a very small state government organization can handle it so well. As Mr. Ashwini and Savio mentioned, customer experience is very important. That only will give you repeat customers. That only will acquire more than acquiring customer, as you all know, is very difficult. But retaining the customer is the easier part, provided you give a very good customer experience. Yeah. So I
Yeah,
will like
I do
to.
agree. I do agree with the panel. But apart from the external customers, keeping your internal customers with the same kind of an experience level is also of utmost importance, because if you keep your internal customers happy, those guys will actually go ahead and get you the revenues, right? They will be able to deliver you the value, right? As far as, I mean, what Deodutta sir said, right, from a human resource perspective. So if you look at last 2 years, right, we have been into a very different world where the requirement of technology has changed drastically with various organizations due to this entire work from home. But what have we done in order to ensure that the resources that are delivering these services to you are able to capture the essence of those? Are able to understand the products more, right? So that is also an user experience, right? If I have a frustrated L1 engineer who doesn't know what is he supposed to do, he will not be able to deliver that value to internal customers, right? So that trainings, that knowledge transfer, or the knowledge acquisition by our own people internally has to be given more focus right now, because in this decade what we see, the digitalization is going to be more, right? So you'll have more people working online. There will be more people who would need to develop more and more products, because see, finally it is BFSI needs to compete with, likes of Zomatos and Swiggies for the way they deliver the services, right? Today everybody expects the same thing, right? So if you want to go into that level, we need to invest into those kind of resources, right? I mean, if you look at the PSU banks, they have their own problems in terms of hiring, right? If you look at the other, I mean, if you look at recent newspaper articles also, right? The job market is tremendous. It is fluctuating, like the demand and supply is very much not in sync with what we would have seen in last 2 years back, right? So even a 4 year, 5 year developer is expecting around 15 lakh kind of a story, right? So it is time that we invest into people who are there with us today to ensure that they stay with us for a longer time and deliver the value that we expect, and they feel that they are valued in that aspect also.
They should
So I
become the
would like
brand
to add, sir.
internal brand ambassadors.
Raghav
Yeah.
sir, I would like to add on what Rao sir said that, and Ashwini sir also extended that, why we are not going to replace this customer experience with customer science. So for the exacting why I'm saying this. So the science, the customer science combines the technology. So what Ashwini sir is saying that when we introduce the technology with the customer relationship, like internal customer means employees, or our customers, banking customers, and financial customers. So when we introduce the this customer science with the technology, customer experience with the technology, so the like data science, artificial intelligence, IoT and ML will required, and other technology required, also required, that like what Citrix is offering to us. So these type of technology will be really required for hassle-free experience. So yes, so I'm agree with the Ashwini sir and what Rao sir is saying.
Yeah, I think that is the way forward, because most of, as Mr. Deodutta rightly mentioned, most of the front-end people who are in the managing these help centers, they are not adequately trained and they are not having proper knowledge also. So one of the ways to help them is these AI and other techniques. When you raise a query, the customer asks a query, they should be able to ask these queries and get for the information from the back end without any human intervention. So
Yeah.
these are the areas that AI, ML, and all going to help in a big way. But yes, the customer experience largely depends on the front end that is provided. So adequately training the front end people is very very important aspect. As a votary of HR, I am also a big votary of HR. So I fully endorse these points that have been shared by all of you, the esteemed speakers. Any other thoughts any of you would like to mention? Any other thoughts,
Our
or
in
if you are
Indian
done
Bank,
with that?
in Indian Bank, we are trying to provide the customer as a banking as a service. So we are going to, if we require this thing, we definitely required Citrix and other supporting kind of solution, and we required this machine learning and AI. As I already mentioned that we are having a less footprint on cloud banking. So definitely for deception kind of technology and this spear phishing. So definitely we have to go for a cloud, because cloud only can give that much amount of data required for supporting these type of application, like sticks and taxi framework, and threat hunting framework, and other kind of threat hunting activities. So it required these kinds of support, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, cloud AI and all is going to, whether we like it or not, it is going to happen. Only the percentage may vary depending on the individual sectors concerned about privacy and other regulatory requirements, etc. For example, banking, insurance are all highly regulated, and the privacy and other aspects scores higher compared to other facilities that are provided. But it depends on the type of the amount of comfort that they get in adapting these technologies, but it is going to happen slowly and surely. So, with those concluding remarks, I would like to hand over back to Ms. Shalini. Provided if anybody else has got anything else to share, they can tell. Otherwise, I would like to hand over to
No,
Ms.
thank you
Shalini.
everyone for a lovely discussion, and thanks to all the audience for participating in a very
Thank you.
lively debate.